Good morning, students. This is Alpha Metric High Secondary School, Pondicherry. I welcome you all to the 11th Standard Commerce class. The first chapter we are going to see is Historical Background of Commerce in the Subcontinent. Learning Objectives. To gain knowledge about the historical background of commerce in the subcontinent. So here, subcontinent. Why India is called as a subcontinent? Because it consists of all the characteristic features which is present in a continent. For example, large landmass, different types of vegetation, different language speaking people, different religion, all this is present in India, and that is why India is called as a subcontinent. So in this lesson you'll be learning about the historical background of commerce in India. Next, to learn the hindrances of commerce and trade. So what are all the obstacles of commerce and trade? Next, to know about the features of barter system. Introduction. Commerce has been in practice since time immemorial. That is very old. It is of very old practice. It is part and parcel of human life, whether it is a king or a common man. It emerged as a economic activity mainly as barter system, which means exchange of goods for goods. So this commerce, first how it emerged? It emerged as a barter system, that is exchanging goods for goods. It was so comfortable for neighboring villages, states, even countries to practice barter in the absence of medium of exchange in the form of money today. So today if you want to buy a product, we use money. But in those days, barter system was in practice, and the people found it convenient to practice this barter, whether it is between the neighboring villages or between the states or even between the countries. However, the concept of money occupied its predominance when scarce resources were to be either exchanged between parties in need or countries in demand, and over a period of time, barter economy took the dimension of monetary economy, where money was used as a medium of exchange of goods and services. When the resources were scarce, that is insufficient to be exchanged between the parties or between the countries, the barter system couldn't work. This barter system, this barter economy took a new change. That is, it changed to a monetary economy. Monetary is money. Money was used as a medium of exchange for buying goods and services. What is money? Money is a medium of exchange, unit of account, store of value. Medium of exchange. A consumer can purchase any commodity or services with the help of money. Next, unit of account. It measures the value of goods and assets, that is property. Next, store of value. You can save money. The whole of commerce activity emerged from barter system into a multi-dimensional and multi-phased scientific system consisting of courses like monetary system, mail order business, hire purchase system, installment system, and so on. The commerce activities, which started as barter system, has now changed into multi-phase scientific system. It consists of monetary system, that is money, mail order business, that is doing business through mail, placing the orders through mail, hire purchase system, installment system, that is buying a product and paying for it in installment. In a technology-driven society today, again the course of commerce activities is heading for a cashless system through e-commerce, which means business activities enabled through electronic modes like online trading, mobile banking, and e-marketing. So now the commerce has developed to such an extent that it is carried through a cashless system, that is through e-commerce, electronic modes. The business activities are done through online trading, mobile banking, and e-marketing. It is necessary for a commerce student to know the historical background of the growth and development of commerce in India as well as in Tamil Nadu. The earliest trading population of India was Indus Valley people who used the word trade. The word Vaniyam or Vanivam would have had Dravidian origin. The word Vanigam has been widely used in Sangam literature like Purananuru and Tirukural. The Tamil Brahmi inscriptions from Alagarmalai, Pugalur, Mangulam, and Sri Lanka illustrate the fact that the trade in gold, oil, flour, cloth was conducted during the early age. So, from the inscriptions, we come to know that gold, oil, flour, cloth were traded in early age. Trade in Sangam period was both internal and external, but it was conducted by means of barter. பண்டமாற்று பண்டமாற்றுன்னா ஒரு பொருளை கொடுத்துட்டு இன்னொரு பொருள் வாங்குறது. Trade was one of the major means of linking various regions in the medieval period. So the different regions in the medieval period were linked because of trade. Sangam work refers to great traders, their caravans, security force, markets, marts, and guilds of such great traders. So the Sangam literature tells about the great traders, their caravans, that is the vehicles which they use for trading purpose, about their security forces, about markets, marts, that is the trading center, and guilds of such great traders. Guilds is nothing but association of merchants. The most important article which the then hilly tribes offered to the neighbors in the exchange were honey, roots, and fruits, while pastoral people offered cattle, milk, and milk product. So hilly tribes, what were the articles they exchanged? It was honey, roots, and fruits. And pastoral people in turn, they offered cattle, milk, and milk products. Cattle served as money for some time during the same period. Most of the inland trade was done in salt as medium of exchange under barter mode. Paddy too served as a medium of exchange for certain period. So here cattle, salt, paddy, all these has served as a medium of exchange under barter mode. Trade and traders in the Pandya dynasty. Trade and commerce was so common to Pandya dynasty. Information collected from the diaries of foreign travelers, voyagers, mariners, and adventurers of the ancient world highlighted the prosperity of trade in the Pandya kingdom. So you can get the information from the diaries of foreign travelers, voyagers, one who travels on a long journey, that is especially by boat, ship. Mariners, it is the sailors, and from the adventurers of ancient world. So from all these you can get the information of trade in Pandya country. The Hebrew and Latin literature, archaeological remains is the excavation that was conducted in Aden, Alexandria, Java, Sumatra, and even China add support to the fact of existence of trade network in the Pandya kingdom. So the archaeological remains found in these places also tells us about the trade network in the Pandya kingdom. Trade in copper, cloth, salt, flour, sandalwood, fish, paddy, cereals, pearls flourished during their period. So what are all the articles they traded? They traded in copper, cloth, salt, flour, sandalwood, fish, paddy, cereals, pearls. The place where the goods were sold was called Angadi in their period. So in Pandya period, the place where the goods were sold, it was called as Angadi. And according to Saint Poet Ilango, in Silappadigaram, he has described the day market as Nalangadi and night market as Alangadi. He described Madurai as Iruperu Neyamatu, meaning sleepless city, due to the round-the-clock business activities. So he has described Madurai as sleepless city because day and night the business activities were taking place. Coastal trade in ancient Tamil Nadu. Big cities like Bumbuhar had the Maruvur Pakam. It is called as inland town, and Pattinapakam, it is coastal town, had market and bazaar where many merchants met one another for the purpose of selling and buying different kinds of commodities and foodstuffs. So Bumbuhar had both the town, that is inland town as well as coastal town, and here more markets and bazaars were there, and people from different places came here for selling and buying different kinds of commodities and foodstuffs. Port towns like Tondi, Korkai, Puhar and Musiri were always seen as busy with marts and markets with activities related to imports and exports. So port towns which conducted the activities of imports and exports were Tondi, Korkai, Puhar and Musiri. They were engaged in different kinds of fishing, pearls and conches, and produced salts and built ships. So the people, coastal people, they were engaged in different activities like fishing, pearls and conches, and also they produced salts and also built ships. Boats like Padagu, Timil, Thoni, Ambu, Odampunai were used to cross rivers for domestic trade. So for the purpose of domestic trade, to cross the rivers, what were they used? Padagu, Timil, Thoni, Ambu, Odampunai. And for foreign trade, for crossing the oceans, what they used? Kalam, Marakalam, Vangam, Navai. They were used for crossing the oceans for foreign trade. The role of the government during ancient Tamil Nadu. Foreigners who transacted business were known as Yavanars. That is, foreign traders, they were known as Yavanars. And Arabs who traded with Tamil, they were called as Jonagar. Arab traders, they were called as Jonagar. During the Sangam period, the main trade routes were passing through thick forest over Western Ghats, and these traders have to be protected. So the government protected the merchant caravans on these trade routes from robbers and wildlife. The government gave importance to two aspects with regard to trade. One was infrastructure and the other one was taxation. The main roads, they were known as Peruvali, and they were built for the purpose of surface transportation. And the state expanded infrastructure for shipping such as ports, lighthouse, warehouse to promote overseas trade. Kaveri Pumbattinam was the chief port of the kingdom of Cholas, whereas Nagapattinam, Marakkanam, Arikamedu were other small ports on east coast. Pandya kingdom developed Korkai, Saliyur, Kayal, Marungurpattinam and Kumari for foreign trade. The state government installed checkposts to collect customs along the highways and the ports. So they have installed checkposts for the purpose of collecting customs in the highways as well as in the ports also. Contribution of Kautilya to trade. Chanakya, known as Kautilya or Vishnugupta, was the prime minister during the period of Chandragupta Maurya. He is the author of Arthashastra. Kautilya's Arthashastra describes economy in Mauryan times. So in his Arthashastra, he had described the Mauryan economy. According to Kautilya, trade in medieval India was centralized. The state had fixed certain places for selling the commodities. It levied duties. Levied is imposed duties on goods brought into the city, and those goods could be sold only after the payment of duty. And it also fixed the prices for the commodities, and it was fixed by the chief controllers of state trading. And the margin for profit were also fixed separately for the domestic goods as well as for the imported goods. Kautilya gave importance for the state in relation to treasury, taxation, industry, commerce, agriculture, and conservation of natural resources. So he gave importance to all those things. Arthashastra focused on creation of wealth as a means to promote the well-being of the state. He wanted to have a perfect balance between the state management and people's welfare through trading activities. Balban was the first sultan who paved the way in the dense forest and helped traders and their caravans to move from one marketplace to other. During the Sultanate period, trade flourished due to the establishment of currency system, and their currency system was based on silver and copper. The important trade centers were Delhi, Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Sonar, Sonargaon, Jaunpur and Lahore. So these were the important trading centers. Next, India's handicraft commanded a good foreign market. So Indian handicrafts had a good place in the foreign market. India imported horses, dry fruits, precious stones, glassware, high-grade textiles, raw silk, corals, scented oils, velvets. These were the imports of India, and they were imported from which countries? See, Kabul, Arabia, Europe, East Africa, Malaya, China and Far East. From these places, India imported those goods. Next, trade was carried through overland route with Afghanistan, Central Asia and Persia. And through land routes, India conducted foreign trade with Quetta, Khyber Pass, Iraq and Bukhara. The next topic is trade with Rome, China and Europe. Roman and Greek traders had frequent trade relationship with the Tamil countries. They had trade relationship with ancient kings of Pandya, Cholas and Chera dynasties. Cholas had a strong trading relationship with Chinese Song dynasty. So the Cholas, to secure a sea route to China, to have a sea route to China, they have conquered Srivijaya Empire of Indonesia and Malaysia. During the 16th and 18th centuries, India's overseas trade expanded due to the trading with European companies. So during 16th and 18th century, there was an expansion in India's overseas trade, and that was due to the trading activities with the European companies. The discovery of new sea route from Europe to India had far-reaching impact on the civilized world. The new sea route from Europe to India through the Cape of Good Hope by Vasco da Gama had a far-reaching impact on the civilized world. The arrival of Portuguese in India had led to the advent of other European communities. So with the arrival of Portuguese, other European powers also entered into India. Textile and shipbuilding earned name and fame in the 17th and 18th century. But the British gradually abolished the princely orders in the Indian territories. With that, the demand for Indian goods declined. It was during the British rule. Between early 1600 and mid-19th century, the British East India Company led establishment and expansion of foreign trade all over Asia. The next topic we are going to see is barter system. So what is meant by barter system? Goods were exchanged for goods prior to the invention of money. So goods exchanged for goods is called as barter system. The barter system works on certain conditions. So what are they? We will see now. First one is each party to barter must have surplus stocks for the trade to take place. So both the person, they should have surplus stocks. They should have enough stocks for selling. Second one, both the buyers and sellers should require the goods each other desperately. That is double coincidence of wants. For example, two persons, take it as A and B. So A should be in need of the goods possessed by B. Same way, B should be in need of the goods possessed by A. Then only the barter works. Third one, buyer and seller should meet personally to effect the exchange. So here in the barter system, both the buyer and seller should meet personally. Then only the exchange takes place effectively. Next, constraints in barter system. Constraints means limitations or restrictions in barter system. The barter system envisages mutual exchange of one's goods to others' goods without money as medium of exchange. So exchange of goods to other goods without money. The barter system had many difficulties as follows. So what are all the difficulties in barter system? First one, lack of double coincidence of wants. Second, non-existence of common measure of value. Third, lack of direct contact between producer and consumer. And the fourth one, lack of surplus stock. We'll see one by one. Lack of double coincidence of wants. Unless two persons who have surplus have the demand for the goods possessed by each other, barter could not materialize. That is, two persons, they are having surplus goods and both of them should have demand for the goods possessed by each other. If not, the barter will not work. For instance, for example, A is having surplus of groundnut and B is having possessing rice in surplus. A is having groundnut and B is having rice. So A should be in need of rice which is possessed by B, and B should be in need of groundnut which is possessed by A. So if this coincidence of wants does not exist, barter cannot take place. If A is not in need of rice, then how can the barter system work? So both should have surplus and both should need the goods. Then only the barter can take place. The second constraints in barter system is non-existence of common measure of value. Barter system could not determine the value of commodities since each commodity has its own value. So, the barter system could not determine the value of commodities to be exchanged as they lacked commonly acceptable measures to evaluate each and every commodities. So, there is no common measure of value in barter system. It was difficult to compare the values of all articles in the absence of an acceptable medium of exchange. So, without the common measure of value, it is difficult to compare the values of all articles. The next constraint in barter system is lack of direct contact between the producer and consumers. So it was not possible for buyers and sellers to meet face to face in many contests for exchanging the commodities for commodities. So in trading, buyers and sellers have to meet face to face. Then only the exchange will take place effectively. But in barter system, it was not possible all the time. So this hindered the process of barter system in practical sense. Lack of surplus stock. Absence of surplus stock was one of the impediments in barter system. Impediments, that is hindrance or obstruction. So if there is no surplus stock with the buyer and the seller, then the barter is not possible. So if the buyer and seller do not have surplus, then no barter was possible. So both the buyer and the seller should have surplus stock. Then only barter can take place. The next topic, invention of money. So the last topic we have seen what are all the hindrances in constraints in barter system. So all these hindrances can be removed by the invention of money as a medium of exchange. It was removed by the invention of money as a medium of exchange. So there are other hindrances in the smooth exchange of goods from the place of production to the place of consumption. For example, place, time, risk, knowledge, finance. Hindrances of commerce. Production of goods and services for the satisfaction of human wants is the main objective of an industry. So, why goods and services are produced? To satisfy the human wants, and that is the main objective of an industry. And commerce serves as a valuable link between the producer and the consumer. So, it links the producer and the consumer. It renders a variety of service to ensure that the passage of goods and services between the two, that is, between the producer and the consumer, from the production point to the consumption point, is completed without any let or hindrance. So, this commerce helps to complete the process without any obstruction. Definition: commerce may be defined as the organized system for the exchange of goods and services between the members of industrial world. It comprises of all forms of trade: wholesale, retail, import, export, and entrepreneurial and services which aid and assist the trading activities such as banking, transport, warehousing, insurance, and advertising. Elimination of hindrances of commerce. Business consists of all industries and commerce. Commerce serves to remove several hindrances and solve many problems while facilitating the production and distribution. Here in this table, you can see what are all the hindrances and how those hindrances can be removed. Hindrance of place, it can be removed by transportation. Hindrance of contact, it can be removed by communication. And next, hindrance of time, it is removed by warehousing. Hindrance of risk by insurance. Hindrance of finance by banking and financial institutions. Next, hindrance of information can be removed by advertising. The next topic is elimination of hindrances of commerce. That is, how can we eliminate the hindrances of commerce? How can we overcome the hindrances of commerce? Business consists of all industries and commerce, and it serves to remove several hindrances and solve many problems while facilitating the production and distribution of goods. So, what are all the hindrances and how it is removed? Hindrance of place, it is removed by transportation. Hindrance of contact, it is removed by communication. Hindrance of time, it is removed by warehousing. And hindrance of risk, it is removed by insurance. And hindrance of finance, and it can be overcome by banking and financial institutions. And hindrance of information, it is overcome by advertising. Hindrance of person. Manufacturers do not know the place and phase of the consumer. So the producer or the manufacturer, they don't come in contact with the place or phase of the consumers. They don't know the consumer. It is a retailer who knows the taste, preference, and location of the consumer. So, retailers, for example, near your house there may be a shop, and you may be a customer of that shop. You buy goods and products in that shop. So, that retailer may know what is your taste, what is your preference, and where your house is located. He knows well. So, this retailer provides a link between the producer and the consumer. The chain of middlemen consisting of wholesalers, agents, and retailers establish the link between the producers and consumers. So, the middlemen between the producer and the consumer, who are they? They are the wholesalers, agents, retailers. So, these middlemen act as a link between the producer and the consumers. So, hindrance of person is eliminated by the chain of middlemen. So, they act as a link between the producer and consumer. Hindrance of place. Production takes place in one center and consumers are spread throughout the country and world. So production takes place in one place and consumers, they are spread throughout the country, throughout the world. So from the production point, the products has to be taken to the consumption point. So which removes the hindrance of place? It is the rail, air, sea and land transport brings the products to the place of consumer. So hindrance of place is removed by transportation. Hindrance of time. Consumers want products whenever they have money, time and willingness to buy. So whenever there is need, we have got money and where there is time, then only we go to buy the product, isn't it? So goods are produced in anticipation of such demands. So in expectation of such demands, the goods are produced. They are stored in warehouse in different regional centers so that they can be distributed at the right time to the consumers. So the whatever products are produced, they are stored in warehouses in different regions, in different centers, in warehouses they are stored, and they are distributed at the right time to the consumers. Hindrance of risk of deterioration in quality. Proper packaging and modern air-conditioned storage house ensure that there is no deterioration in quality of products. For example, some perishable goods like fruits, vegetables, eggs, butter, fish, meat, etc. has to be stored in cold storage or refrigerated warehouses, and goods are to be protected against insects, rats, evaporation. So warehouses, proper warehouses are needed, proper storage houses are needed to protect the goods. Hindrance of risk of loss. Fire, theft, floods, and accidents may bring huge loss to the business, and this loss can be overcome by the insurance of goods. Insurance companies serve to cover the risk of such losses. Hindrance of knowledge. See, for example, a new product is introduced in the market. How you will come to know about the product? How will you know about that product? So it is through advertising and communication. So advertising and communication help in announcing of new products and their uses to the people. So hindrance of knowledge is removed by advertising and communication. Hindrance of exchange. Hindrance of exchange can be removed by money, which acts as a medium of exchange. Money functions as a medium of exchange and enable the buying and selling of any product or services by payment of the right price. Hindrance of finance. Producers and traders may not have the required funds at the time of their need. So you can take businessmen also, they require finance, money for the smooth functioning of their business. So the hindrance of finance is removed by bank and financial institutions. Banks and other financial institutions provide funds and help in the transfer of funds to enable the functioning of business smoothly. Hindrance of developing the exact product. So this hindrance can be removed by research and development. It helps in developing the exact product or service which can satisfy the specific wants of the consumer and thus improve the standard of living of the people. The last hindrance, hindrance of both selection and delivery at doorsteps. So this hindrance is eliminated by e-commerce. So e-commerce helps the consumer to select the product in the website, and you can place the orders in the online, and you can receive the product at the doorsteps and make payments. So e-commerce enables the consumer to select the product and also receive the product at the doorsteps. With this, we come to the end of the lesson. We will just recall what we have seen in this lesson. We have seen how the barter system had worked in the absence of medium of exchange in the form of money, and also how the barter economy took to the monetary economy. We have also seen about the trade and traders in Pandya dynasty, the coastal trade in ancient Tamil Nadu, and what is the role of government during the ancient Tamil Nadu, and what are the contribution of Kautilya to trade. Then about the trade in North India and also the trade with Rome, China and Europe. And next about the barter system. What are the constraints in barter system, and also what are the hindrances in commerce and how you can eliminate the hindrances of commerce. Thank you, students.